All right, we're going to get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The second item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 is adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion? Moved by Carabelli, supported by Duge. Is there any discussion on today's joint agenda? Seeing no discussion, please vote on your iPad. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes. We have both the Justice and Public Safety Committee minutes from October 12th and the Government Operations minutes from October 16th. It's been moved by Commissioner Brown, supported by Commissioner Leonetti. Are there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing no discussion, please vote on your iPads. Item number 5 is public participation. Are there any members of the public who wish to address this committee on issues related to the agenda? Donna, could you give us your name and address for our records, please?
My name is Donna Conjemi. I live at 11235 Sterling Heights, Michigan. I'm president of AFSCME Local 411, and I rise to discuss item 10, the clerk's request for $100,000 to pay for legal fees. I wasn't planning on discussing this issue today because I'm 99.9% positive this board is not going to approve this issue today, but there's 0.1% of me that wanted to rise just to make you aware of some issues that you may not be aware of because many of you did not attend the hearing that was held last week, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. We have filed 22 grievances against the clerk since January 17th. Most of those have been harassment and hostile work environment grievances. Everyone that has come before your own Human Resources Department has been upheld. That is very unusual. In the 20 years that I have been the president of AFSCME, I have not had any upheld before January 17th. That is how unusual and beyond pale that these circumstances are. Those grievances have been for intimidating, harassing, demeaning, retaliating, threatening, berating, screaming at, disrespecting, threatening to terminate the long-term members of my bargaining unit. These are employees that I have never known, never seen in all the years that I've been the president of this local. AFSCME has taken extraordinary steps that are costing us a lot of legal monies. And to file a temporary restraining order to protect our members, I am positive this board is not even going to consider that the language that the clerk is referencing justifies $100,000. I'm kind of an extraordinary person in that I also was a charter commissioner as well as Chair Smith. There is no way that we ever created that language as the intent to protect someone who's harassing members and employees of this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address this committee? Seeing none, we'll close public participation and move to item number 6, which is department recommendations. And the first one at 6A is the agreement on inmate calling solutions. Sheriff Wickersham.
Good afternoon, Board. How are you?
Good. Could you give us an overview?
Yes, we have been with Inmate Calling Solutions, or ICS, since 2012. We went out to bid back in 2012 and brought on them for our inmate phone solution within the jail. Over the last 5 years, they've been actually a great company to work with. Their original proposal not only was for an inmate phone solution for calling, but they also provided in that contract was video visitation, which we are using, and we no longer send the public up to the the floor to visit. Everything's done via video in a room down at the jail, and also you can also do visiting from your home through the internet. They give us a full-time staff Monday through Friday to deal with phone issues, help out local police departments and investigators in our office, reference calls that are being made from the jail. And they have asked that we can enter into an agreement for another 3-year contract with 2 one-year extensions. For that, they would increase the commissions, which are currently 66.1 to 68%. They would provide the sheriff's office with a technology grant in the amount of $130,000 and give us some increased software for the system and Word Detective, which would help out our investigators. And at this point, I would ask this board to consider amending and approving this contract.
Without going into specific dollar value, Sheriff, can you tell us how this has assisted you? Has it reduced the amount of exchange of contraband? Has it reduced the workload on sheriffs of babysitting or watching the visitations?
Yeah, the video visitation aspect has been a very key point because we would have to have an officer that did the visitation, which we still have. We'd also have to have a blue coat in the facility because we'd have to screen the people coming up to visit because they're going up into the jail. We have to call out inmates, send them upstairs so they can visit. There's the possibility of contraband being slipped through the little telephone lines. Now they just come on in. They're on the annex area. They sit in front of a video. The screens are actually inside the pods. The inmate knows when it's his visit or her visit. They go and sit in front of the screen and the visiting occurs. So it's definitely made the facility a lot safer. It's more efficient, and it's just a good system.
So you would describe it like a Skype, so they're Skyping with their guests.
Exactly, and they can go online, they can get the information. So if you're in California and you want to schedule a visit with somebody in a Macomb County jail, again, for a fee, which the company receives a portion and the county receives a portion, they could visit from California here.
Okay, and that's what you were speaking about, the commissions now is going up to 60%?
Oh, exactly, that and on the phone calls that they make from within the facility to people on the outside.
Okay. On my list, I have Commissioner Carabelli. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish everything that came in front of us didn't cost us anything. With that said, a couple of things. Number one, it's a 3-year agreement. How does this contract interact with I'm guessing you're making a presentation after the new year about suggestions on the jail, the facility itself?
Correct.
Does this in either way help, hurt, or no change to what you future
Well,
plans?
I think with the presentation that would be forthcoming in 2018, and depending on decisions made, this current 3-year agreement would take us into we'd still be in the existing facility. We would have to look at whatever decision is made and reconfigure that as part of the proposal.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question I have, when you get the opportunity, can you find out the last contract with this company, what the actual amount you received and what the percentage that the company received?
I can give you you want the breakdown?
Oh, if you have it.
I have it, yeah. 2012 gross revenue was $240,000. We got $159,000. 13 was 1.3. We received $900,000. 2014, 1.4. We received $991,000. 15 was 1.6 gross. We received just over $1 million. 2016, 1.4. We received $900,000. Currently, we're at $1 million gross revenue and 603. We're on track to receive 900,000 in commissions.
Great.
That goes into your general fund.
And that was the next question, that all reverts back to the general fund.
General fund, yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Quick question. The grant for 130,000, does that cover 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, all the years?
It's going to be a one-time grant,
Okay.
and what we're looking to purchase is actually a mail scanner that can detect drugs. As you are aware, we have a lot of people that are addicted, currently incarcerated, and we have a lot of family members and loved ones that are doing anything and everything they can to get drugs into our facility. And this technology that's out there that we've been researching would really help us detect letters and things that they put into the letters or on the seals to reduce drugs getting into the facility.
Okay, very good. So that's a one-time deal.
One-time deal, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Sheriff.
Good afternoon.
I'm with that technology grant again, who negotiated that? Was that what you asked for, or is that what they offered? I'm greed is my ulterior motive for asking.
My jail captain, Walt Zimney, negotiated that with the company.
So, going back to Commissioner Lucido, the 3-year contract, is there any reason why they wouldn't negotiate, again, greed being my motive here, that 138,000 that they're offering? I mean, is that something they're offering because we're giving them 3 years or something on a yearly basis that we can go back to them and say, listen, we're going to take you 138, you have your 3-year contract, however, in year 2, we'd like to come back in and renegotiate another grant money or amount. Just a suggestion, just thinking of that, and what do you think?
I always open to negotiation, and again, I think with this company and how open they've been to working with us, and I think that's something that we could look at into years 2 and 3.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
It might be in here, but there's all these numbers. How many people can talk on the phone or take advantage of this at once? Are there like
So in the
148 phones? Is this per phone? Is this?
Walt, you know how many phones we have
There's about 30 phones set up right now. 30 phones in the annex for visiting.
for visiting? But the phones itself, so in the tower,
Right.
there's 2 phones in each pod. So
Okay.
that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 times 7. So there's over about 150 phones in the facility. Every housing unit has a phone in it, if not more than one. And they could all be on at one time.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. And you've got this video visitation. How many of those platforms do you have?
So there's 1 in each housing unit.
Oh, that's how it
So
works.
1 in each housing unit, yep. And what it happens is they schedule visiting. It's all software-based. They pick that time that they're going to be visiting, and then they go and sit in front of the monitor for a 30-minute visit.
So it's also timed at 30 minutes?
30 minutes, yep.
Okay, I wanted to know how many and how long. And no problems with this?
None?
Last question. Privacy. Are there privacy concerns with this, that anybody else can hear it, see it, or whatever else?
They're in jail, there's no privacy.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Moved by Commissioner Carabelli, supported by Commissioner Lucido. Please vote on your iPads. Unanimously approved. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Commissioners. Have a good day.
Item number 6B is the intergovernmental contract with St. Clair County. Rhonda?
can. I'm here today on behalf of the facility requesting the renewal of our detention bed space contract with St. Clair County. And in summary, we have had a contract in place with them wherein they pay a daily per diem to place kids in our facility, so they're adding kids to our current population. We are asking for that to be renewed. We have increased that daily per diem in this contract to $153 a day. It was $150, and we're asking for a renewal of 1 year.
Can you tell us what percentage of the kids in the facility are St. Clair and what percentage are Macomb County?
Yeah, if not broken down by percentage, but I can tell you on a daily basis, we have an average of anywhere from about 3 to 5 St. Clair kids.
What is your total population right now?
Today, this morning, our population was 43. So,
Less than 10%?
yeah, less than 10%. And that would be pretty consistent. That actually would be consistent.
Okay. Are there questions? Commissioner Duche?
I didn't. Sorry.
Are there any commissioners that wish to speak on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion? Commissioner Lucido, you moving this issue? Yes. Moved by Lucido, supported by Romano. Please vote on your iPad. The item is unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is correspondence. Is there a motion to receive and file? Moved by Leonetti, supported by Carabelli. Any discussion? Please vote on your iPad. That concludes my portion of the agenda. Commissioner Majak?
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll go on to the government operations portion. Item number 8, presentation by Dr. Amboyer, Ethics Board Annual Report. How you doing, Dr. Amboyer?
Good, thank you, Commissioner. It's a pleasure and an opportunity to be here on behalf of the Macomb County Ethics Board to present the annual report. It was actually submitted to the chair of the Board of Commissioners as well as the executive in September, and we're pleased to be able to present a summary to you. You have a very busy agenda today, so what I'd like to do is present the analytics in summary form, some general information about the public servant as well as the general public, education, a quick summary about the budget, and some long and short-term goals that the Ethics Board has. To begin with the analytics, during the course of 2016, we had 2 formal advisory opinion requests. There were 8 formal ethics complaints. We had 4 receive and file correspondences of a general nature, and we had a total of 35 telephone requests for information. On the surface, that really doesn't sound like much, but the Ethics Board took a considerable amount of time to deal with some of the telephone requests that have really absolutely nothing to do with the enrolled ordinance 2016-3, in large part because I think the general public is not truly aware of the substance of the Ethics Board as it pertains to Macomb County. For instance, we were getting inquiries about waiting vans. We're currently dealing with one right now from a county department that is requesting an opinion relative to the acceptance of turkeys for Thanksgiving. There's a variety of different requests that have been made of the Ethics Board, dealing with county cars being driven home, district court fees, and of course a number of requests from the media that are things that transpire that are not necessarily included in the ethics or in the analytics for you to consider. I did have the pleasure and opportunity to appear before the Government Operations Committee meeting in September 11th, 2017, relative to the budget for fiscal year 2018, and included in the annual report, however, for 2016, as you are aware, the appropriation was $59,000, and because of the Ethics Board is rather frugal, if you will, during 2016, we only spent $1,355.46 during the course of 2016. In terms of general public education, in 2016, we produced a number of flyers, brochures. We had holders for each of the various departments, including the Board of Commissioners, the Executive Office, and all the departments for that matter, to be available for the public servants and the employees of Macomb County, as well as the general public, so they're a little bit more aware of Macomb County Ethics Ordinance. And as also discussed during the budget meeting on September 17th, we had the online training program that was in effect for all public servants in Macomb County, which was very well received. However, it's been suspended due to the change in the ethics ordinance, which we also discussed. With that, I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions and hopefully be able to answer those to the board. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, commissioners? I don't see anyone. Any questions on the Commissioner Gillette?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Amboyer, for being here. This may be answered in the report, and it probably is. But you have on the chart on I believe page 3, the number of complaints filed by year, 2012, 13, 14. Does the board, has the board responded to all of those complaints, or do you respond to certain complaints based on criteria?
Well, the criteria that we follow is the ethics ordinance, and as you're well aware, that was changed from the original ordinance to the one 216. The one that was in effect, I think, dealt with you, and that was included in the ethics ordinance, and that's one of the, unfortunately, the fallacies of the new ordinance, the problems with the new ordinance. Currently, we have underway in Washington, D.C., the Robert Mueller investigation that's going on. I've been involved personally in criminal justice for over 27 years, have degrees in criminology, have taught the undergraduate and graduate level. I've never experienced anything like this where the new ordinance requires an investigation to be done in public. And that's what one of the major concerns with the new ordinance. I don't mean to get off on that, but that is really a sore point among members of the Ethics Board.
Okay. So would it be fair to say of the complaints filed, like in 2012, 13, 14, did the board then make a determination on all of those complaints?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have a Commissioner Bob Smith?
Good afternoon, Dr. Amboyer.
Good afternoon, sir.
I don't have a question, more just a comment, just so that you are aware of it. You know that we did receive all of the input from all the people on the revision of the ethics ordinance, and after the budget season is done, we're going to jump into that full force. So just to let you know, it hasn't. It's only slipped on the back burner because of what we're in right now, but we'll be contacting you soon regarding some changes or possible changes.
Good. We really look forward to working in conjunction with the board to make improvements on behalf of the citizens of Macomb County. We really appreciate that opportunity to provide input and to work in conjunction as partners with the board and so on.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Romano?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Dr. Emperor.
Good afternoon, sir.
It kind of just piqued my interest here when I heard that the first time that you put together the ethics board, for the first time in history that you, the complaint was educated for the amount of $150. And I guess, is this all public record, I would assume?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what that complaint was and what that fine was for?
Yes, I do.
May I?
The first one that was adjudicated by the Ethics Board dealt with the former Public Works Commissioner, and that there was a fine that was assessed and that has never been paid.
Answered my question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I see no other speakers. I have a question or two, Professor Amboyer, that pertains to the Public Works Department in terms of what's happened in the past. Just recently, we've heard of, read in the paper that an individual stole some equipment at the Public Works and things like that. I'm just wondering, have you dealt with anybody at Public Works office with any ethical complaints recently pertaining to the previous administration that was there? You know, I mean, we have a lot of hearsay rumors, FBI and grand jury, things like that. I'm just wondering what comes across your desk.
No, sir. No one has inquired, nor, more importantly, no one has filed a formal ethics complaint relative to those matters.
Okay. So the ethics board doesn't necessarily go out and seek ethical complaints. I guess what I'm trying to brainstorm here is go to the Public Works Department and start talking to some employees there. See what you can dig up. Or is that's obviously not your job, that's an investigator, right?
Right, and I'm glad you raised that point, sir. Members of the ethics board are all volunteers. Right. They're appointed, non-compensated. We're not lawyers. We have, for the most part, administrative backgrounds. In the original ethics ordinance, there was a provision in there whereupon the ethics board could request the assistance and cooperation of the sheriff's department to conduct investigations. In the subsequent ethics ordinance, that was deleted. However, the county does obviously have the potential and the capability to again put that provision back into the ethics ordinance for the opportunity to request the investigative assistance from the sheriff's department. And also, the prosecutor's office has a very, very competent, and professional investigative team that presumably could be requested for assistance in matters of that nature. But currently, we have 5 people that have lives and families and professions that they're currently involved in. We don't go out and seek to uncover ethical violations. When they're brought to our attention, we have an absolute responsibility to follow up on those responsibilities within the provisions of the ordinance.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Professor Amboyer, Commissioners? Commissioner Brown?
Dr. Amboyer, thank you for your continued service to this goal of having an effective ethics board in the county.
Thank you.
You have been the glue that's kept this whole body going, and you are certainly you're the core of what's kept that thing alive, and you've had a lot of turnover through that board come through, and I appreciate your dedication and service, not only before the county previously, but certainly just for those commissioners who may not know, the new commissioners, Dr. Amboyer has been a steady servant here at the county for many years, and we're lucky to have you on there. And
40 years.
I lost count. Thank you.
1973.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your service, and keep up the good work, because I'm afraid that if you weren't there, this would all just be a bunch of papers sitting on the shelf. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no other speakers, we'll take a motion to receive and file. Moved by Drollet, supported by Carabelli. Please vote. Thank you, Dr. Amboyer.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 9, closed session for 2 items, pending litigation with attorney. And item B, attorney-client memorandum from independent counsel Scott Smith. We do need a motion to go into closed session, moved by Drollet, supported by Lucido. Please vote. And Sergeant of Arms Lucido, could you please clear the room? Okay, commissioners and members of the public, thanks for your patience. Members of the public, we'll go on to item number 10, Department Recommendation Request from Clerk, Register of Deeds, Karen Spranger. Is Karen here? You can step up to the podium, Karen. So Karen, we have this 1-page letter from you, request to the Macomb County Board of Commissioners for legal fees per county charter. If we'd like to have you talk about that, your request. I have a question, like, have you talked to Corp Counsel, and what would another council do that Corp Counsel wouldn't? So I'll go ahead and let you just talk about the letter, though, that your request, please.
Because of the different lawsuits I'm in, corporate counsel would not be considered appropriate because of the other court cases in that manner. In labor law, you do need a specialized attorney to represent me, being in the capacity as the Macomb County Clerk, to represent the lawsuit itself.
Okay. Questions, commissioners? What's that? Yeah. So are you asking for a certain amount of money for a particular law firm or lawyer?
The process that is undergone here is just to use the available funds that would sustain me to get an attorney, and then the process of bringing the attorneys to the board, or I select one within a reasonable time frame, because November 14th is the due date for this particular hearing of this case before the 16th Judiciary Court.
Okay, Commissioner Carabelli, I have you on the list to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Madam Clerk. Couple questions for you. The last time you had asked for funds, and I may be wrong, I think it was about approximately $20,000 for an attorney?
No, that was,
How much was it that you asked the last time?
it was 15.
15,000? Okay. And at that time, I had serious reservations because you didn't know where those funds were going to come from. So the first question I have is that the liability fund, there's available funds in there for you to utilize?
That would be up to the finance department to answer, but if you remember previously, the lawsuits between the Board of Commissioners and Hackle, back at the time you had the lawsuit, there was available funds.
Okay, so you don't know,
So right now, I would have to consult the finance department, which I presented it to you because of the nature of the time frame to approve it. If you need to verify it, the finance person is here to talk on that.
well, I guess I'm asking you, did you verify if the funds were available in there?
No, I did not.
Okay. Second question I have, you asked for 15,000 the first time, now you're asking for $100,000, is that correct?
That is approximately a ballpark figure that I went back to compare what they asked prior to other lawsuits.
I'm sorry, that who asked?
Hackle and the Board of Commissioners. Back in that lawsuit, if you do a little history and research, they came up with a figure of 100,000. Just asking. Doesn't mean you meet that criteria of 100,000. It's available. And if it's in the liability fund, then it goes through that process. I mean, that's something we could get down to the actual process of that, which I don't have prepared today.
Okay, and I believe Commissioner Chair Rob Myjack had asked you, have you gone to Corporation Counsel? And I think you mentioned something to the effect of they don't specialize in it or something to that effect. Is that what?
It's a labor law attorney.
Okay. I'm not an attorney by any stretch of the imagination. And with that said, I have to rely on our attorneys for advice on what we need to do. And since I've been up here, anytime an attorney has been hired, it's been recommendations through a bid process, recommendations directly through Corporation Counsel, who has the expertise of who we should hire and who we shouldn't hire. So I'm personally, as one commissioner, struggling right now of your asking for $100,000. You don't know if the money's in there yet. And you're asking me personally to make a decision amongst my colleagues. And I'm struggling with that right now. I want to let you know.
I'm just following what charter allows me to request to the Board of Commissioners.
Well, the charter allows you to request in 6.6, I'm sorry, 6.6 5 that you can also request corporation counsel from the executive's office to assist you in that process. You may ask. It also says you may ask the Board of Commissioners, so I know where you're talking about in the charter.
Correct.
But with that said, your due diligence hasn't been done yet, has it? You don't know if the funds are available in there? Steve's behind you. I mean,
Well, we could bring them up and ask.
Well,
I mean, I can request to bring them up and ask.
okay. That's what I have at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next on the speakers, Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to follow a little bit off of what Commissioner Carabelli was saying. You know, there is a sort of a requirement of you to exhaust options, you know, before you come and ask us to have taxpayer dollars spent on legal fees. And I will remind you that this board has already approved outside counsel for you on another lawsuit. So we're having a lot of tax dollars going into a lot of lawsuits here. Have you contacted Human Resources at all before any of these actions came around? Have you talked to Human Resources at all about the different things that the unions have brought against you?
We have engaged in it and we're far apart.
Have you taken any of their advice?
I've exercised my management right under my right as the county clerk and my statutory responsibilities, and we are far apart.
So you're far apart?
Issues
Okay.
that we are not sitting down to discuss things, and
Let me ask you this.
I'm being sued by a union in court, and by November 14th, I need to get representation to represent me in this lawsuit.
I understand that, but did Human Resources give you advice? First question, did Human Resources give you advice about the situation?
I don't have any emails or recall them giving me advice as far as attorneys, no.
No, I'm not talking about attorneys. I'm talking about the underlying situation that has caused the union now to bring this lawsuit. Did you have an opportunity to sit down with Human Resources, and did Human Resources at any point give you advice? First, did you go to Human Resources and say, hey, what's this? Why are they coming after me here? And did Human Resources give you advice?
There was no part of that discussion offered to me at that time. I was served with the lawsuit, and I'm responding to it.
Okay, prior to the lawsuit, did you have any opportunity to meet with Human Resources and elicit advice regarding the situation with the employees that were unionized?
I'm not understanding the intent of the actual question to be
Well, the intent of the
specific
question
enough,
is,
because there's a lot of issues in my offices as far as general departments being together in one building, how they operate, and how we're short-staffed because of the situation of the move and who's
Let me
going and
direct
doing
you to
what.
let me direct you to answer a question you asked me, and then I'd like you to stay focused on my questions. My question, and my intent of my questions is this: you're asking us to approve taxpayer dollars to support you in defending a lawsuit.
There is a lawsuit filed.
I understand that. Okay, what I need to know is what happened that caused this lawsuit to occur, and what I want to know is if you availed yourself, first of all, because we're going to get to the attorneys in a second, but first of all, did you avail yourself of any of the advice that Macomb County's Human Resource Department would give you regarding the situation with the employees in the union? Did you at any point in your capacity as the clerk avail yourself of any services that Human Resources could have provided you to avoid the lawsuit?
This is not,
It's a yes or no question. Did you go to Human Resources or not? Yes or no?
I would rather take that under advisement because I feel this intimidation just from answering a question
It's a
about
simple
a
question.
lawsuit that they filed against me as the county clerk is an action they did.
Okay, so
I'm
then-
responding as the county clerk to have my right exercised.
Okay, well then I'm
To
going to tell
get
you as
an
a county commissioner,
attorney
hold on, I'm going to
to-
tell you as a county commissioner,
Okay.
then I'm going to assume your answer is no, you didn't go to Human Resources. So I have to factor that in what I'm going to decide to do here. If you didn't go to Human Resources, then the next step is this. Did you go to Corporation Counsel? Macomb County has Corporation Counsel. You as an elected official have an absolute right, just like I do, if I have a dilemma, to go to Corporation Counsel and seek their advice. So I'm going to ask you a simple yes or no question. In regard to the actions that have now caused this lawsuit by the union, did you at any point go to Corporation Counsel and seek their advice?
We are currently in litigation against each other. It does not make sense to go to corporate counsel on this issue when the issue stems from other court cases that are tied in some way, somehow. So independent counsel for me is very important.
Well, before I can
So
give you
the
independent
court
counsel.
costs- The different court cases are different in nature because they're in different courts. However, this court, I am being sued.
Okay.
I sued,
Those are different
and
cases.
then
Those
they
are cases.
sued me,
Listen,
and they are different.
they are different cases, and that's exactly my point. In order for me as a commissioner, I have to do due diligence before I decide to spend taxpayer dollars. And I want to make sure, okay, that all options were exercised prior to the lawsuit being filed before I decide to go and give you money. Because here's my concern. Let's say I give you $100,000 to go and talk to your own independent counsel. And what happens if they tell you, you know what? Human Resources told you X, Y, and Z, and you should have followed that. And you know what? If you would have went to Corporation Counsel, they would have told you X, Y, and Z, and you should have followed that. And that attorney is going to tell you, I can't represent you. Then you're going to go to another attorney, and you're going to go to another attorney, and you're going to go to another attorney. What I'm concerned with, and this isn't personal, we are running a county here. What I'm concerned with is if you did not listen to the advice of Human Resources, if you did not listen to the advice of Corporation Counsel, and that has caused a lawsuit, it doesn't matter what attorney you go to. Attorneys are going to probably tell you at some point, maybe a law has been violated and there's really nothing we can do about it except do what we're required to do. And I don't want to spend money to have an attorney tell you that. I'm an attorney. You know that. There's plenty of times when people come into my office and I'm pretty much right out honest with them. I'll say, you know what? There's really nothing I can do for you. You can spend a lot of money on me, but at the end of the day, this is how it's going to resolve itself. And I still don't have an answer from you as to whether or not you've talked to Human Resources and they gave you some advice, and I don't have an answer from you if you've talked to Corporation Counsel and they've given you advice. If you're going to take those matters under advisement because you're concerned, then you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to assume your answer is no, and I don't feel comfortable giving you independent counsel. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Duje.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon or good evening. Going off of Commissioner Leonetti's questions, did you go to the Office of County Executive and ask them for direction in all of this?
We are conflicted out. And it's very difficult to discuss matters that are opposite of each other's, the way the office of the clerk's office. I'm just being sued. I'm just asking for representation. The type of attorney I need is a professional in labor law.
Okay.
And if the corporate counsel meets that expectation and they have come to me or we come to each other, then that is something we could sit down and do. But as far as being sued, I answered what I had to do in court. I showed up. The judge said and allowed me to get time to get an attorney, and that's what I'm doing. And
Okay,
in order to go through the process, I read the charter, and I'm coming before you to request under the charter my rights to an attorney to represent me in these law cases.
That's very well said. Now, question. Well, have you gone to Steve Smeagol to check on the funding? You said no, correct?
Correct.
Did you go to HR to talk to him about all this? You said no. Did you go to
We
Corporation
had some
Counsel?
conversations, but we're at an impasse. We're not in agreement.
Okay.
Okay?
Corporation Counsel, did you go to the office executive? No. So you haven't talked to any other department, but you are under the opinion that you need $100,000 from a liability fund in order to sue the county, correct?
That's my request.
Okay. That's what I thought. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair Bob Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Ms. Spranger. Can you enlighten me a little bit as to what you're being sued for?
The paperwork is filed. I didn't get to respond back to it yet because I'm waiting for the attorney to sit down and discuss the matter.
Okay, that's not what I
appropriately.
asked. Do you know what you're being sued for?
It is in violation of the collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, so was there any notification before this lawsuit that you had violated the collective bargaining agreement?
No, it's related to the Mertz case that was filed by the Union 412. And that was pending in litigation. And I wrote exceptions to that case.
Okay,
And
so
this sparked off this response of a lawsuit by the other union. Ask me.
So
that's where we're at.
you're saying that with all of these grievances, I believe, what, 22 grievances that you have against you, and that with all these other suits regarding hiring, firing, employment problems, issues, that you've never once sat down and got any advice from Human Resources or independent counsel, even before all the lawsuits? Because I know this has been going on for quite some time.
The way they work is you get an email and they tell you to show up to a grievance meeting, and under my rights, I should be able to not just show up by myself when there's a group of more people against you on the grievance, and I've asked to have representation to attorney, and I was denied that. And I'm just learning that that's something questionable. I do have a right to have some kind of representation at these meetings.
You have an
And
interesting way of
exercise
answering my
fairness
question
in
without
the
answering my
process.
question.
You show up, and if I'm having other responsibilities, there's no way under due process to have an appropriate scheduling of time together. You show up, and you're guilty if you don't come.
So my
So,
question is,
a lot of these grievances,
I'll
I
keep
was
asking
not
the
there
same
to talk.
question. I'll keep asking you the same question. You're saying that with all of these grievances, you've had no opportunity all this time to talk to HR about what you are doing and if it falls within the ordinance, the law of the county, of our charter county. You've had no opportunity to talk to HR about this, to find out if you were acting appropriately or inappropriately. You've had no opportunity to talk to Corporation Counsel about all of this.
I have talked to HR. I told you we are in total
didn't.
disagreement. So it proceeded to an escalated level of controversy, and it's also to a level out of control. And I'll just be honest.
We can see
Now,
that.
the other issue, in my opinion, is when you are sued in the capacity I am as the county clerk, I should be able to get some kind of representation. And if legal counsel feels they can, or I can choose the attorney who is specialized in labor law and would able to read the contract, interpret the language, and get down to my rights as the manager of this department, and to make decisions that are in that contract to be upheld, then I am doing the right thing as the county clerk, to run the offices and make decisions as the management of that department. And that's basically our argument.
So let me ask you this. I've heard that there's been 22 grievances against you as a clerk, and that never in the history of the, at least the person acting as a union rep right now for quite some time, has the county ever agreed with any of their grievances. And in this case, the county has agreed with all of them. Do you find this to be an individual problem, or can you tell me what the issue is here, what you might see from the big picture, what we should be seeing?
I didn't read the contract to read the exact language.
This has
of
nothing to do with the
article,
contract.
But it's my management right to make decisions in the office and to do the staffing and to implement the task and to live up to the descriptions of your job classification, and everybody does a job.
Okay. So you
And
believe
when
you're...
they start to tell the county clerk, no, I'm not going to do their job, and we go through this grievance process, sometimes it's one-sided, sometimes it's unfair, and sometimes you can get down to changing a policy. And policies are only good if it serves the purpose of harmony in the office The workforce is doing their job, and we succeed at accomplishing the service for Macomb County as this office was designed to be.
Okay, so do you answer this? It seems to me like you believe that you have unilateral ability to hire and fire and do everything in your office with total disregard for the policies that have been in place for this whole
A lot of
county.
policies are complementary. It's just the difference of the interpretation. That's where we're at with this division.
So you believe your interpretation is better
I
than our
think the
HR directors
interpretation
and
of the
our
policies, if you
corporation
sit
counsel?
down, then look at the argument of the CBA agreement and what it was designed for, is the manager has the right to manage their office and make decisions. And if I'm the co-employer and the hiring and firing authority, that is part of my total responsibilities in this agreement, then that's what I'm exercising.
Okay.
And I do respect the process, and we're going through the process.
Can I tell you, Clerk Spranger, that you would have far more success in any of your requests if you would stick to the question that's asked and answer that question. You would have a lot more understanding from people if you would actually answer a question that someone actually asked. And that being said, I've had enough. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Joe Romano?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Clerk. There's no nice way to say it. I don't want you to think that we're bantering you, and it sounds somewhat like it, and I know that, and I do know that. But just a couple of things that I wanted to mention here that, you know, every county official, everyone here, any county official, elected official, has the right for representation. I mean, that's, I've been doing business as an official elected for many, many, many years, and situations have come up where we have needed counsel. And before we would do anything, we'd go to our immediate either direct city council representation attorneys, or if in that fact our city council representation attorney said, listen, this is an area that we're not experts in, be it labor negotiations or whatever may come up, and they would then come to the council and say to them, we're going to suggest that you get outside counsel for that. But before they would do that, we had gone to them and asked, listen, this is our problem, can you handle it? So in all fairness, you're asking, I'm saying me, but this particular board for that $100,000, and I have to say to you, Ms. Spranger, it's not that I'm saying no or yes. What I'm saying to you is I think you should really approach our corporation counsel, who may have experts in the field that you need, and utilize them. And if they don't, then they would probably suggest to you that maybe we should give you somebody outside the corporation council that's an expert in this, and then come to us for that type of money, which you may need. And I think I'd be a little more receptive to that. At this particular point, honestly, I think all other avenues have not been exhausted yet, that you should come to us and ask for that type of money. That's my own personal opinion. That's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
My response, if I may. The corporate counsel and I are in a lawsuit. And when you're in a lawsuit, it doesn't make sense, if you just think logically, that corporate counsel can represent me in this case independently and non-partial because of the other lawsuits. That's why you have independent counsel. That's why the executive branch has independent counsel. They use the counsel, the legal opinions that I differ with. Now, technically, it should go to the Attorney General's office when there's an opinion written by the legal department that goes against my statutory responsibility as a county clerk. These are some of the issues that are in the grievances, and I don't want to bring them up because you can read them now. They're all public. They're filed in this court case, and I need to get an attorney in a reasonable time. And that's my goal, is to get representation that I'm entitled to under the charter. And I just am asking you to consider in a reasonable way to have me get legal representation. And if it's conflicted out, because it is a possibility that is the way it works, is that if I'm already in a lawsuit with legal counsel, another lawsuit for them to represent me is a conflict. That's why one of the lawsuits that went to the 16th Judiciary Court was put into another county because of the conflict of interest. They didn't hear it in the county that I am the county clerk for this court. So it had to be moved to another county to be heard. So that's another court case. So that's
Okay,
part
next
of
on
the
the list.
situation I'm in.
Next on the list, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you. Clerk Spranger, I'm trying to truly be patient and understand and listen. When you first got elected, we told you, at any time our door's open, ask questions, we'll be happy to help you. I've heard you answer questions from these commissioners, and I don't know if you really understood what you answered. And I'm going to tell you something. He asked you point blank if you had discussions with labor relations. He asked you point blank, HR.
We did, and we disagree.
But wait, to him, you said that you didn't. You told him you didn't talk to Corporation Counsel.
To take their
commissioner- Let me
advice.
finish. Another commissioner, well, we did talk, but we have philosophy differences. Then you say you can't go to Corporation Counsel because you're in litigation. You can't go to the executive's office because you're in litigation. You're in litigation with this board as well. You are confusing me and using crutches of trying to get something that you're looking for, and I am not sure what you're looking for. Do you realize that you're also in litigation with us?
I do.
But yet you use that as an excuse for Corporation Counsel. You use that as an excuse for the executive's office. You're not clear enough to me to warrant any expenditures of taxpayers' dollars, because you know what? You are charged with a job and you got responsibilities. But within that responsibility, there are rules that you have to follow, and rules that are set up contractually. You may not like them, but you have to follow them. And our HR department is going to say you are following them or you're not following them. They work for us to make sure that the rules are enacted and they're followed. And if they tell you we got to change ways, then we have to change the ways. You don't like it, you wait till time to renegotiate a contract. You want to change work rules, you work with them to change them. You don't fight them in midstream and ask us to take taxpayers' dollars and expend them on stuff when we already have a staff of attorneys that are on staff that the taxpayers are already paying for. So you're in litigation with us, you're in litigation with the executive's office, you're in litigation, and you're saying Corporation Counsel you're in litigation with. Well, that's all three of us. Yet you're coming to here, and in that, what you said point blank, 6.65 of the charter, you skipped over the executive part and you went right to the commission.
Because of the nature of being sued and the requirement under charter, if the library, the funds were available to all public officials. And if there's a process I'm skipping, then let's go back to the first step. I always said that in the beginning.
The first step is you also answered another
Now,
commissioner, and you
when
said, well,
there's
Corporation Counsel
lawsuits-
can come to me. Now, I'm going to cut you off because you were
Okay.
cutting everybody else off, including myself. You said, well,
I
Corporation
apologize.
Counsel can come to me. Well, finance can come to me. Well, no, you need to go to them. You need to ask them what needs to be done. Not come here and ask for $100,000 of taxpayers' dollars, and you don't even know really what you're going to do with it yet.
It's for attorney fees,
Okay, for attorney fees on rules that,
to get an attorney, to provide me with an attorney. Now, if corporate counsel can represent me, and that's a legitimate question that an attorney of statute, maybe the Attorney General, I'll call him up tomorrow and say, here's the dilemma, here's the circumstances, and what is right for the county clerk to get representation that's being sued in Macomb County. You have an obligation under the charter, and I'm just asking to exercise my right.
you need to do your due diligence as well, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Philcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Clerk, last time you came before us asking for outside counsel, I had a real issue with A, the cost, and B, where you were pulling the funds from. Last time it was special projects, and I asked you what the previous clerk did under special projects, and you had no answer for me. Now this time you're coming for the liability fund. And all these other commissioners have asked you questions about who you've talked to about this issue. Have you talked to anybody about where to get this funding from, or did you just pull the liability fund out of thin air like you did with special projects?
No, special projects, if you look at what she did, she had awards. And when you look at how that system worked, you go to the government, and I think there's a fee you pay, and you write your own awards, and you get nominated, and there's your award. I didn't see the system of being earned like you do if you're a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. You actually get to do the work, and you get a badge, and you put your time in. That's government itself. If you wanted to pay awards, if you looked at that money, it could have been used for better use than just buying awards to say you accomplished something when the award is written for another purpose and you wrote it.
Like defending yourself even though we have counsel here that's free.
If the council can represent me, nobody has asked that question.
So the liability fund,
So if that
you're
question
saying,
needs to be asked, then that is a legitimate question to ask.
so the liability fund is a more appropriate funding source than special projects.
That's what they did to fund the Board of Commissioners with the Executive Board when they had their disagreement, and that's how they did the funds. I just was doing some of the research in the past budgets and how the registrar and the checks showed how the money went from here to here. I'm not here to get into all that semantically. I'm just here to ask what the charter says I can ask for, and it's very clear I'm being sued, and I need representation, and this.
Chair, I'm going to
amount
call
will
the
not be
question. I'm going to
spent,
call
or
the
it
question
may
for
be
vote,
spent.
Chair, if I may. I'm going to call a question for vote to forward this to the Finance Committee.
Point of information, why would we forward it? We can take the vote right here. If it doesn't pass this committee, it shouldn't go to the finance. It should be. Thank you.
So I'm calling the question for a vote on this. Yeah, is there a motion on the floor? That's the thing. Motion on the floor is to deny retention of outside independent legal counsel. Is that right? Okay. Is there support? Okay, support. Okay, we'll take a vote on that, commissioners. Yeah, recommendation to the full board. Final vote will be the full board. Okay, please vote on your computer, commissioners. Item passes 11-0, and we'll have that resolution drafted, I believe, for full board this Thursday. Item number 11, new business commissioners. Any new business? Chair Smith?
Thank you. Commissioners, I think you've pretty much been sent draft copies of everything. We're going to revise, I think, the combination ordinance. We're going to get a copy of the appropriations ordinance to you first thing in the morning, but we have had a chance to sit on some of the discussion from yesterday. I don't know if there's any more discussion today that anybody wants to have regarding the budget. However, if no one's ready to discuss anything tonight, we certainly have tomorrow and Thursday to discuss this. Please read everything that's been sent to you, that's on your desk, and that will be sent to you yet tomorrow morning, so that we can have a good conversation tomorrow without asking questions that were already in the documents that we're talking about. So if anyone wants to bring anything up, please do. If not, I'm good with this.
Okay, any other new business, commissioners? Seeing none, public participation, anyone from the public wish to address this body, please give us your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Joseph Hunt, 8306 Stanley, homeowner and taxpayer from the city of Warren, County of Macomb. Specifically, I thought that was a very engaging discussion there regarding the legal fees and the processes that you go through in order to go through the checklist and basically prevent the expenditure of taxpayer dollars for whatever purposes. I noticed that Chair Amboyer of the Ethics Board was in here earlier, and it was discovered by Chair Smith that you're not going to be doing anything regarding the updates to the policies and procedures of the Ethics Board until your budget season is over. I know the last time that I came here, I spoke about my interest in submitting anywhere between a dozen to 18 ethics complaints against various county officials. A lot of the issues that I have with the county officials are basically based upon the rules of procedure that I don't know if they exist or not. So rather than turning them in and going through the extensive paper copying process, I guess I'll just have to wait and gather more information against those public officials that I'd like to file ethics complaints against. Within the actual conversation that you had here today, denying Karen Spranger her legal representation, I do want to point out the last time that I was here that I had questioned the human resource budget, where they have a outsourced labor attorney called Keller Toma racking up legal fees from the corporate counsel supplies and services, the human resources supplies and services, and the appropriations supplies and services. So this Keller Toma, at this point, according to the check registers in 2017, has racked up about $130,000, and this is all related to, I believe, the federal case associated with the fellow that Eric Smith and Karen Bethanti, the new human resource director, violated his civil rights. When you take a look at these legal filings and you take a look at Macomb County, the way that they operate, the way I see it is the unions are labor organizations that are nothing other than extensions of the Democratic Party. And of course, Karen did not go out and receive any funds from the Democrats. She did not seek their endorsement, neither did I. But it appears to me that there's a gang up here, and that's just my opinion, that the labor organizations of Macomb County are just an extension of the Democrat Party, and that apparently this is basically campaigning outside of campaign season. I do want to point out that I have acquired a lot of the affidavits of identity for some of the commissioners, and I do want to point out that one of the commissioners that is absent basically put down an email address that is invalid. I went to the Attorney General's office, and they said I am free to exercise a quo warranto action against the missing member due to the perceived violation of the law called perjury. And the issue does come down to is that the Sheriff's Department is conflicted out, so I can go to the Michigan State Police. And I also want to point out that the Bureau of Elections has sanctioned me doing so. My question is on whether or not, if all of a sudden I take a quo warranto action against one of your members, on whether or not that individual is going to come to you for legal fees, or whether or not that's basically going to be paid from his individual funds. The way I see it, why file a lawsuit? I'm just be like suing myself. But the issue comes down to is that when you take away people's rights, they remember. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Please. You step up to the podium, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Joseph White, 30585 Sandhurst Drive, apartment 207, Roseville, Michigan, 48066. I was a licensed social worker at Detroit East on MSW. I also was in the PhD program at Wayne State University. I found myself in 5 RICO cases that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. They came back down with a Rule 44.2. They were saying they were mock kangaroo courts. One of those cases was down here when Camilla Sabat was here. There was a default that took place for like $4 million that should have been granted by Edward Savito. The other case was in Third Circuit Court, whereas it was a cortisone death from Hopper Hospital and St. John's Hospital. But what I found that was amazing, the court clerk down there, Kathy Garrett, had strong unions affiliation. Her husband was president of the union, her son was president of the unions. I was not only fighting the court cases, but I found myself fighting the unions. I come over here and fighting with a case that should have been granted. That was traveler's indemnity was involved. EDS Care Management attorney in Washington courts found out that a default should have been granted. It got thrown out. Camilla Sabah was involved, but what the correlation was the strong union presence. It was a strong union presence over there with Kathy Garrett that I was not only fighting those cases, I was fighting the unions. Come over here, the same unions asked me, is trying to stop y'all from organizing. Sure enough, Camilla Sabah was organized, very organized. But when you got organized, you have to think of two, organized crime. So when you got things and people get comfortable with organization, they decide that they don't want to step outside the box. Cam Spranger is trying to step outside the box and bring a new awareness to what's going on and who's controlling what. And we have to give ourselves due diligence to move outside our box and see what's really going on here. Now, I agree, money don't necessarily help when you're dealing with RICO, because in RICO, racketeering, you got people with big money. I mean, big money that could buy the whole Macomb. The thing is, you have to watch your ethics, and you have to watch that moral, and you have to watch that integrity. And you got a court clerk here that came up in here clean without 20 years of experience or 20 years of corruption. That seemed like her motto was like trying to drain the swamp. Don't take money to drain no swamp. All it takes is good people around this board to cooperate and see actually like what's going on. Let's see what's happening before we all end up in the United States Supreme Court. The organization I work for, they said nothing was wrong. They lost $120 million. They lost 40 years of moral integrity. Gateway lost, Detroit East lost. I still haven't got paid. I spent $30,000 of my personal money. My wife got disenfranchised. I got disenfranchised as a public figure. And I welcome Karen Spranger kind of mixing up the pot a little bit. She might sound a little eccentric, but you have to look at what's being done. Anytime you're getting something disorganized, good people like you got to figure like, how do we put this together? Let's see her point of view. She's dealing with unions, and ASME could be some good people in there, but ASME known for a lot of corruption in a lot of places because it got big money and big ties. Let's look at some of these ties and let's see why she wants this money, but I don't think that a lawyer is going to help. I had 21 lawyers. I offered them a piece of $10 million because I had 2 key TAMs. One of them, they took the $120 million. They supposed to be paying me another one of the key TAMs. They supposed to be paying me. Offered lawyers all kind of money. Lawyers not going to take no money from me. They're going to take it from the special interest groups. They're going to take the big money. So she's not going to get a lawyer that's going to represent her adequately. If anybody going to represent us adequately, it's going to have to be you good people around this table. And let's see what's going on before we make a decision that we have to live with or a decision that we might not have a chance to live with. Because my case is all the way been to the United States Supreme Court, now it's back up in there, now it's back down to the appeals court. I'm being yo-yoed all around by special interest groups and union represented by Kathy Garrett having 2 stronger affiliation with the union. Her husband is the president of the union. Her son is the president, the same ASME y'all got here, the same ASME over there. I wouldn't want nobody affiliated. That's a conflict of interest right there when you got a union representative that's in the unions like that. Too deep. She's too deep in there.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, that's it. Just see what's going on before y'all make any decisions.
Okay, thank you. Any other members from the public? Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one from the public, we are adjourned. Thank you.